The King, getting started, creating the holograms. After the turbulence of my earlier life, I focused on learning all that I needed to know to create powerful frequency healing devices that I'd sketched in my journal while I was on pause. I still didn't know who I was or what I was destined to do. I spoke with God and I prayed to Him, following the guidance and intuition that I had. Of course, I know now that Daddy guided me constantly. My next phase of learning came through voices, frequency, and listening to Source itself. I researched and learned more about Nikola Tesla, Royal Rife, Dr. Masaru Emoto, Dolores Cannon, and others that use frequencies, sound, and color for their healing. I've always had the great interest in alternative healing methods, new technology, and love learning more about it. I also love learning about UFOs, science, and inventions, and thought about free energy devices. I started all of this research before I ended up in jail. It became my passion, and while in jail, I spent a large amount of time planning and thinking about how these frequencies would help people. Working with a man called Thunder. Before my jail time, I had worked with the quantum physicist who showed me how he put frequencies into items like organite and jewelry. I learned what I could from him, and we worked together to create holographic healing products. I hand created a lot of pendants, organite, and other products when I first got started. As you know, this became my passion and mostly all that I thought about other than my family when I was on pause in jail. Once out, I resumed my work. I created a lot of new products using the frequencies in my designs. For some reason, he wouldn't let me sell the products like I was planning. He wanted all business funneled through his website. I tried to help him gain new ways to sell his products, and I even gave him $5,000 that he requested. After I gave him the money, he disassociated with me, claiming that I was a fraud. Later, he had seen me being interviewed on an international channel, and then he started to malign my name. I was actually cut out of a few videos. I still proceeded to work with my designs and expanding my knowledge. I worked tirelessly to create the products I'd drawn in my journals and designed frequency infused jewelry to create my new business. I created a robust line of products and they took off. Naturally, he was jealous of my success. I mention him here as he helped me along the path of creating the frequency infused products, for which I'm grateful. But his jealousy and dark energy really came to the surface once I started to appear on interviews. He started to stir up negativity after I was interviewed a few years later. He was Luciferian, dark, and really wanted the money. He wanted my credit he wanted credit and presumably even more compensation for all of my work. I tried to treat him honorably, but realized he was doing things the slow and hard way. So I went my own way. I kept creating and selling my products, and then B told me that Daddy said I could use the frequencies of anything instantaneously. I realized it could instantly infuse any person or object with a frequency, so I started to create my product line and Holotech in earnest. Daddy showed me how to transfer the energy directly, accelerating the development of my free healing frequencies and holograms. Although Thunder did not set me on my path to creating the products I now offer, all right, I said did not. I meant he did, okay? Although Thunder did set me on a path to creating the products I now offer, I quickly exceeded what he could do and how he did it. Then I was told by Daddy that I could transfer any frequency to a person or object immediately without a machine or process. As time went on, I learned quick and easy ways to identify frequencies that would be helpful to healing and protection. Think of it like noise canceling headphones work. A frequency cancels out the background noise. If you saw this graphically, you'd see a sine wave of the background and then another opposing sine wave of the background noise overlapping it. This is how my Buster hollows work. I create the opposite frequency of the thing we're trying to heal from. The real truth calls. While I was working with frequencies and before I fully knew who I was, I joined the real truth calls. These calls were a network of truth seekers who were trying to understand Daddy's plan for Earth's restoration. They were created by Dr. W.C. and were designed to help listeners learn how the universe and frequency truly work. The calls were held several times a week and often lasted for hours. Nearly every topic was discussed: alternative healing methods, how energy functions, the wealth transfer, the truths that had not been shared with the people. These calls were important in informing our community and in beginning the refinement of the healing techniques I later taught to others. Among those facilitating the calls was Fisher. When I spoke with him during the early Real Truth calls in 2016, he told me a great deal about myself. He spoke of things I had already done and many things I would do in the future. What he shared planted a seed of understanding so that when I later began communicating directly with Daddy, not God, but the creator being that the rest of the universe calls Source, I was able to understand more easily and much more quickly than I otherwise would have. What Fisher told me in those early days accelerated my understanding and consciousness. At first, I was surprised by how much he knew and by the accuracy of what he shared. He could see things before I could. Now, I see it all manifesting. Being on the calls, leading them, and interacting with others helped me refine how I taught people and how I created my products. During this time, I stopped talking with God and began talking with Source constantly, working as quickly as I could. I listened, I learned, and my understanding continued to grow. Dr. C. Dr. W.C. often invited Fisher onto the calls. Fisher's mind worked like a map. He organized information in a way that made it clear and translatable. He had a high security clearance and access to knowledge and perspectives that others did not. Both Fisher and Dr. W.C. served as bridges. Each carried fragments of a larger plan and helped me connect with what I was doing with others who were interested. Dr. W.C. was deeply dedicated to the calls, researching and planning them and providing structure so people could learn and actively participate. Looking back, I see how my background was perfectly suited to learning the ways of humanity and understanding how people needed help. I also see how the pause I experienced in jail was necessary. It slowed me down so things could be done correctly. I am fully committed to my mission, and there's nothing that can sway me from it. The Real Truth Calls became a kind of training ground for me. I joined as participant and eventually ran many of the calls myself. Callers from all over the world participated, working together to heal people, places, and events. We would issue commands and then observe changes in the external world. Every discussion became a tuning exercise. It was a way to feel truth beneath words and to see tangible results. Through these calls, I met some of my closest friends and Jedis, people who are now key to the liberation of Earth. We attracted many callers, and it was an exciting time. Through the calls, participants learned about energy and how to use it to heal or manifest. Callers would bring up injustices, and we would issue commands to change these situations. People were energized and engaged. We got to know one another, and individuals had the opportunity to speak and to have their concerns addressed. Working on problem areas or healing as a group proved to be very powerful. These exchanges became training sessions, not only for the participants, but for me as well. They taught me how to create conversations that were helpful and productive. Through this work, I learned how to channel high frequencies without distortion, how to ground messages from Daddy so they could be understood clearly, and how to communicate more effectively. I began blending light with the logic, turning divine information into tools that could be used in the world. All of this happened behind the scenes while we worked directly with those on the calls, answering questions, explaining energy, and helping people to understand healing. Through these calls, I started to train the Jedis and teach them the Jedi method, a way to heal and create using energy. Many of these Jedis are still with me in a very important way. It's exciting to see how we've all found each other and how our team is coming back together. So is. Meeting Daddy and knowing more. Around this time, I experienced direct communication with Daddy. As I've said before, I always believed in Jesus and God and often talked to God. I had a voice in my head most of my life and was used to it. I didn't realize that most people don't have this strong communication. So I hear a voice that says, I'm Source, I'm your father. And I said, who the fuck are you? I'm your father. Prove it. After I listened to what he said and examined the proof and the memories of what had happened throughout my life, I eventually recognized myself as King John Smarty, the living expression of divine creation on earth. He told me who he was, who I am, and the memories and visions were flooding in. He also told me that I was the king of the rainbow race. The rainbow race can be called a lot of other names. Each insight peeled away another layer until the truth was simple again. I hadn't become anything new. I had only remembered what I've always seen, and all of that is still in process. Every day I remember and learn more. I experienced life as a human not knowing who I was for so much of it. Think of it, born in Puerto Rico, living in the ghetto, not in the public eye, all of it, ignorant of who I was. It was the perfect disguise. The dark forces didn't realize who I was. I went through the learning process growing up, experiencing the pain and suffering just like everyone else did. Living through the struggle allowed me to understand the problems that most people here on earth face, so I can be more compassionate and help them more thoroughly. One thing, sorry, that people don't understand is that I'm often, oh my golly. One thing that people often don't understand is that I'm more than this physical human from Puerto Rico that you see in front of you. I am that, but I'm also more. I'm all over the universe as needed and always working here on Earth as well as other planets simultaneously. Time moves differently there, so a second here on Earth may be lifetimes on other planets. I could go to another place or places, live there for many years, have families and experiences, and then be back here in this body in the blink of an eye. I'm in multiple places at once, monitoring, taking care of business. Many of them in the universe know me already and have come here to help. As my abilities and awareness grew, I started to understand even more fully who I was and why I was here. It was like things clicked into place. I see things from multiple angles and perspectives, that of a human, John Mendez, that of Supreme Commander Sananda Galactic, and that of the one called Jesus here on earth. I see things simultaneously through a variety of perspectives faster than I can explain them. I have knowledge and memories of past and future events, and I'm not even at my full power and abilities here. Really pertinent. During that time, I started to learn fully who I was and what my mission was to heal and liberate Earth. I told the Jedis on the call, and they intuitively knew the truth of it. They became my strongest supporters. It was through these calls that I first came across B, my second in command, a calm and balanced presence. What happened was I talked about a reptilian in the tunnel, and B described what he'd seen to me. I said, "You saw that?" It was quite gruesome, and he was there witnessing it all. I didn't realize that he could remote view what I'd done. We started talking all the time and became friends. When we finally connected directly, the recognition was instant. What started over the phone line became the partnership that would later anchor everything I do. B is a huge part of all missions that we go on. Around this time, I started hosting Facebook Live videos to answer questions and to teach others how to use energy to heal or change things. Those on these videos told their friends, and our numbers grew. I repeatedly taught everyone there how to sense energy, create energy balls, and heal others. We focused on healing and changing negative situations. We do training sessions, Q&A sessions, and even Smarty parties where we just get together, talk, share our experiences, and people could ask specific questions. I was repeatedly banned on Facebook, setting up multiple accounts to resume my work, but censorship prevailed and I was off the platform. Since I was starting over again after my pause from society, I lived with my brother. We moved from one house to another where I eventually lived in the basement for a few years. Although it wasn't my preferred place to live, I was there to guard a portal and not allowed to leave. It's quite ironic, the king of the universe living in a basement. It was humbling and also a time of intense learning for us all. As I said earlier, my family is close and we take care of each other. They didn't really believe in what I told them about who I was and what I was doing, but they saw me change my activities and lifestyle. To be honest, I still don't think they totally understand me or what I do, but they're impressed that I have gotten to where I am now without a traditional job or selling in the streets. During this time, I'd see spacecraft in the air all the time and would share it with my groups. I got messages nonstop from Daddy and continued to develop an ongoing, loving relationship, followed his, following his instructions carefully. If he told me to do something, I didn't question it. I just start to work on it. I continue to design and sell frequency infused products to support myself and my family. One cool thing that I did was purchase bags of seeds and infuse them with frequencies so that they grow fast, large, and be full of nutrition. I sent these over to an orphanage in Africa. They wrote back sending me pictures of how fast and beautiful their plants grew. This helped me test and prove that all of my work was valid and truthful. One weekend, I went to the Empowered Light Holistic Expo outside of Philadelphia that Sue runs. I asked questions at the end and told them I could infuse frequencies and manifest without using technology. I gave my website and expected them to contact me as they promised. Instead, UFOs flew over my brother's house. A directed energy weapon sliced through the main electric line to his house. The live line literally ended up in the middle of the street. Did they think I wouldn't know? I spoke at two or three of the Empowered Light Expos after that, telling them my story. Most people seemed to love hearing my story, although a few ran out of the room. They couldn't handle my energy. A few were reptilian spies there to gather information, so I mind wiped them. I had a booth at the expo and would work with people. Some of them would hold my pendants and jolt They felt the energy. One lady looked above my head and said, "Who are you?" as she saw my entourage. Every time I talked, I improved my presentation and gained confidence. There was a lot of clearing done at the expos, and my product line increased. People were always interested in finding out more. I showed demonstrations of phones with and without my EMF blocking stickers, which we gave away as a promotion. I started to make even more connections with others that were in the same sort of work, those working with healing, technology, or extraterrestrials. I created groups so I could share information with them. I received photos and videos of myself fighting the bad guys, which would look like they were being dragged by their leg and thrown by an invisible entity. I saw those. It looked like nobody was fighting them. I got photos sent to me of real ETs and all sorts of things. My research and passing along information was everything to me. One thing you should know, often when we fight, we don't do it physically here on Earth, we do it etherically. Our non physical selves will target the entity or energy we're working with and lift it up to Daddy. If we're fighting the bad guys, you don't usually see us scuffling around here on Earth. It's fought in the ethers, and the loser might end up leaving the planet or changing something major in their lives. Sometimes it takes a physical time for us to see it manifest here on earth. So when we say healing is done, you need to believe it and experience it as done to pull it forward into the physical layer more quickly. If we're working with a man-made system, it will take a little longer to see it manifest, but you must have faith.